Notts County Talk. It's episode 79 of the Pavis Perspective, the Scunthorpe and Altrincham preview. So two absolutely massive games for Notts coming up in the next few days. So evening to Ian, John, Ian, anyone else that's joining us, let us know how you're watching and where you're watching from. If you are listening back on Spotify, please do give us that 5-star review. And as always, we are sponsored by Better Bytes Computers. How you doing, George? How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's been a busy week, hasn't it, for transfers in the National League, especially today. But I'm just trying to focus on Notts, really.
Yeah.
Just trying to focus on Notts. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking before the show, if I wanted to open the show with something, it would be that the league's not over. Definitely not over. It's not, and people think it's going to be very difficult. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Even if we were level on points to Wrexham or 1 point ahead, it was going to be very difficult. So it's not over. The league's not over. Take that into every game you go to, whether you watch it on TV, whether you watch it on National League TV, whether you're at the ground. Definitely not over yet. Last year, we were looking at Stockport potentially winning it with 5 games to go. And they dropped points against Bournemouth, Yeovil. Then it went down to the last day, and it looked like they were unstoppable. So let's see. Let's see what goes. Let's see how it goes in these final, 7 games that we've got left. So there we go. What do you want to tackle first, George? Should we tackle the Barnet game first, as usual? We'll always go back to that Saturday game.
Yes, sounds like a plan.
Disappointing for me, obviously disappointing.
Yeah.
How did you follow the game? Were you listening along for the whole thing?
Yeah, I listened along for the majority of the game. Yeah. From broadly speaking, obviously, first half sounded like it was fantastic, bar sort of a sleepy spell when we conceded essentially, and second half was just poor.
First half was. It's hard to say. It's obviously not perfect because we conceded the goal, but it was as near to perfect as you were going to get. I mean, I think at one point I saw we had like 88% possession after something like 15 minutes. They could barely get a kick of the ball. We're passing it around. Their keeper played really, really well, to be fair to him. He made a great save. And I know I say every week I'm not going to talk about refs. I'm genuinely not going to talk about refs, but we should have had a penalty, clear as day. But that was 0-0 anyway at that point, so it would have just put the game to 1-0. Yes, it may have helped us out, but the game still wouldn't have put us to 2-0. So not a massive amount really would have changed in the game from my perspective there. In the second half, do you know what I thought? And this worried me a little bit. I thought we were tired. Really, really tired. Like the first time, like I've seen us tired before. We had that spell in like November or December when we played quite a lot of games.
Yeah.
This was like really tired, it looked like.
Yeah.
Chris says we should have been out of sight at half time. We should have. It was so frustrating to go in at 1-1. And I fully expected us to come out second half in front of the Notts fans and just pepper their goal with so many chances, but we didn't. We never did. And disappointing. And Rob says it was a game of 2 halves. I said it on the video after the game. I've never seen I've never seen a bigger game of 2 halves than that. We went from absolutely unbelievable to not being able to string 2 or 3 passes together.
Yeah.
Does fatigue worry you at all, or you think we're towards the end of the season now where it's not? We're just that close. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that definitely does worry me. There seems to be a bit of a split, doesn't there? I mean, sort of going briefly back to what we're saying about the league being gone. I'm seeing people now saying it's playoffs. A lot of people saying it. There's people. It's still there to be played for, like we're sort of saying. But you look at our squad. Obviously, the next game we've got Jody Jones out, Brooks out, which might not be a big issue because I think Slocum's back. But then you look at the injuries: Baldwin, Scott, and there's a couple more in there as well. But I've listed 4 players there that are very important players. So if you're looking at the other squad members, being fatigued, that is a big concern for the running. To sort of use Wrexham as a reference point, Their keeper's picked up a 6-week injury, and they've just brought in Ben Foster, who was playing Premier League football last season. Obviously, we can't compete on them levels, but I just hope that potentially not signing maybe 1 or 2 players just to strengthen it. You know, like you say, we've got 7 games left, just to strengthen for those 7 games. Have we missed a bit of a trick? I'm not sure. But you know, Williams has spoke about this, seeing fatigue and managing it in his most recent press conference. So yeah, it does concern me. It concerns me a little bit.
James says feels like I have a thin but quality squad available. Like every single player in that squad, I would be happy if they started a game. Possibly not Mayor. But I'm only going off what I've seen in one fixture, but I wouldn't be that confident him starting. Other than that, I'll probably take anyone to start in any of the games. But yeah, it feels paper thin now.
It does. It does. We're literally 1 or 2 injuries away from having a real issue on our hands.
Yeah, the players must be close to coming back. That's my only thought. They must be close. Or forgetting that hopefully this weekend it might be too early, but we'd have Junior Marias ready. Hopefully, nope. It's not ready yet.
The injury is longer than they first thought, so they're going to reassess it next week. So another blow. Yeah, exactly.
Maka gets injured. What then? What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Aaron Nemann's injured. Then what? You know, one more centre back's injured. Then what? We're really, really playing with fire almost. Like if we pick up a couple of injuries, all of a sudden the playoffs, if it is to be the playoffs, would then be in doubt. You've got Chesterfield really stepping up there, but they're not. Like, the owners are very, very proactive. When we spoke to them on the interview, they had something for every occasion, didn't they? They knew what was going on. So I think players must be close to coming back. They must be. Otherwise, we wouldn't leave it. We wouldn't leave it as it is if it was, you know, if it was going to be a real issue. But I do think, saying that, you know, the league's definitely not over. Definitely
no, it's not over. It's not over. But you know, with it being so tight, and you know, it's been said, and it's been said again, we could literally have a flawless end to the season now, win every game, and still not get promotion.
I think I genuinely think if we won every game, we get promoted. Though, I honestly do believe that. If we win,
you just never know. You literally never know.
You never know.
Wrexham can afford to lose 1 game.
They can afford to lose maybe 2.
Yeah, they can afford to lose 2. You're right. So I just can't see that happening. I just really can't. I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it?
I think 7 wins out of 7 wins is the league. I think 6. You have to, 6 would be close, but there's definitely winnable games in there.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. And I stick by this point as well. The few times I've watched Wrexham this season, like, don't get me wrong, they've found a way to do it, but the football hasn't been that impressive.
No, it's not. Not for me.
You just feel like they're gonna. It's got to at some point catch up with them.
Yeah,
it has to. It has to, and that's something we was discussing last week, isn't it? About sort of all those stats that sort of line up for Notts being up there. It's not so much like that for Wrexham. So they've just got quality, haven't they? That's the thing. They've got quality that can switch it on at a moment's notice.
I know we're saying they can afford a couple of losses, but all it takes is for us to be one of their losses, and then it takes 1 more or a couple of draws. That's all it takes. They've got to go to Barnet, and if the first half Barnet show up, they'll be out of sight by half time. If the second half Barnet show up, it's going to be a lot trickier. They've got to go play Boreham Wood, who don't really concede many goals, do they? They've got Oldham, who are a good side and will want to finish the season strong going into next year. So definitely not easy. And they've got us. So, you know, I was really, really gutted on Saturday. And I think that one point makes all the difference. You know what, that we nicked against Bromley, that makes all the difference for me. All of a sudden, so they can get to 6 points ahead, but if it had gone to 7, almost impossible in my eyes. What do you make to this? I've got really mixed feelings on this. Matt says, I think Luke Williams is realistic and I am too. I think the title is over. Wrexham will only drop to us at a push. Do you think it's do you think he's genuinely thought that, or do you think it's mind games, or do you think he's prepping the squad to not be too deflated, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of multiple things. I don't think he's, the Luke Williams that we've seen all season has had that sort of never say die attitude, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So you can't all of a sudden tell me that that's just dropped and it's gone. And he did sort of clear it up in his presser that he doesn't believe it, but it's not in our hands anymore. That were his words. It's just not in our hands anymore. Mathematically, it's in Wrexham's hands. So that's what you're sort of getting at. I think it's a combination of possible mind games, trying to apply a little bit more pressure to Wrexham. Whether it'll work or not, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's sort of getting the players ready for potentially being in the playoffs, and preparing them mentally for that, because we've got teams that could creep into the playoffs that could have hit some fantastic form, and we could sort of fizzle out a little bit at the end of the season, and all of a sudden you're thinking we've had a fantastic season, but you don't fancy it. Do you know what I mean? So he really, like, the way he manages this is going to be, it's going to be crucial. It's going to be, but I'm behind him, and you're back him. Whatever happens, if we get automatic, if we go through playoffs, I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but or listened to it even. But Ruben was on the radio in the week. Did you hear any of it?
I didn't. I knew he was on there, but I didn't get to hear it.
He was talking about how Williams is the best manager he's ever had in his career. And you're thinking, fair enough, that's good. That's good of him to say. Then he also says John Bostock said exactly the same thing to him. And when you think about the career that John Bostock's had and the managers that he's played under, what the compliment to get any better than that for a sort of up and coming manager. So yeah, I'm behind him 100%. I think I'm not going to read into what he says and does too much in the next few weeks, because I'm sure everything that he said is so calculated and precise that he knows what he's saying and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit of mind games as well. I think you'll be, if you're a fan, but if you've worked in football like Lee Williams, literally anything happens in football. Anything happens. I think back to, I've already given the National League example of Stockport almost blowing it last year. You look at the Premier League that year that Liverpool looked like they had it. I think they only needed a few points they needed 4 points from a possible 9. Blew it at Crystal Palace in that game, ended up losing the title. So we've also gone up against a side that's got Paul Mullin having injections to get through games, things like that. That tells me they don't think it's over either. So why are we thinking it's over? If they're willing to put their biggest prize asset through that, injections week in, week out to get through games, they don't think it's over. Wrexham fans don't think it's over.
Big time. Well, it's like you're saying that about Mullin, but look, they made 3 signings today, all of really good quality. So yeah, you're right. They definitely don't think it's over, and 2 of those signings until the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. So it's trying to get them over the line. Let's have a look at that then. Deadline day, we thought we were going to get 1 to 2 signings and we got none. Luke Williams almost said it, didn't he? He pretty much said it was going to happen.
Yeah, he did.
So something's gone wrong, fell through.
Not sure. I'm not sure.
What do you think?
I honestly don't know. It surprised me, to be honest, because I almost thought it was pretty much nailed on by the way he said it, because it was like he was asked, wasn't he, if there was going to be any sort of deadline day additions, and he said, there's a possibility for that, and maybe 1 more or something along those lines. Like he said it like it was a plural, like there's going to be more than 1. So yeah, definitely a strange one. Could it potentially have been more mind games? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's disappointing, isn't it? From I look at it and I don't think the squad's bad. I think the squad's fantastic. We're a really good squad. But just talking to you in these 15 minutes, and from what I've been thinking throughout the day, we could have done with someone for Aaron and Man, because I said we were tired. He was absolutely shattered. Second half, when you're in that position where you're up and down the wing, it's really important to stay fresh. But then you've also got the thing that he adds in where he's doubled up on and he has to sprint past players. It must be really tiring, 95 minutes every game. Luckily, we've had that week's rest between games, but then we also have got the Tuesday game coming up against Altrincham. Talking of signings, I know you've already mentioned it, and I tweeted it earlier. The fact that we are within touching distance of a side that can sign players like that is incredible. He played Premier League 9 months ago, albeit not very well. Really disliked by a lot of Watford fans. I think sticking a camera in the goal, didn't put in some very good performances.
Will we be seeing that at Wrexham though? Because I can almost guarantee it. If it's not being put onto his YouTube, I can guarantee that it allows some sort of like side note into the documentary.
Jordan said in our chat, and I dismissed him very quickly. And I know Jordan's watching, so I'll apologise. Like Jordan said, he wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play. Neither would I.
Really?
I mean, he's not played in 9 months. He's got no match fitness. Are they going to throw him in on straight away? I don't think they are. He's 39 years old. I know it was Premier League, but his form was deteriorating. Quality was deteriorating. The guy was more bothered about making YouTube videos than playing football. I think when he was at Watford, he was actually told by the owners to stop, and he ignored them. So he carried on and was fined by the club, I think, for it. I think it's just a PR move on his part and Wrexham's. If he doesn't play, that's all it is. If he does play, and obviously he will be better than National League level. Obviously, I'm not saying he wouldn't be, but the guy just cares about podcasts and things like that. I just think it could just be a PR move. I mean, look at the media storm that's already brought up. Sky Sports were reporting it. Sky Sports were breaking the news. Is it Fabrizio?
Fabrizio Romano, yeah, I saw him put it as well.
He wasn't breaking the Junior Moraes news, was he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's breaking that. I think I've said it all season. It's becoming a little bit. It is ridiculous signing players that played in the Prem 9 months ago. There's nothing we can do about it.
No,
to even be close is absolutely.
Yeah, it's massive achievement.
It's massive, and we need to take that. Ian says, "Let's be honest, his podcasts aren't as good as yours." Ian, I love that. Viewer of the day today. So I'm not worried about his keeping ability. I reckon George is a solid five-a-side keeper. I reckon George, you're probably in better form than him, and you haven't played in a couple of years. So
more than a couple of
years.
Still, though, probably better than him.
What I will say is, and this is I'm not really that bothered about who they sign. We can't compete with it, whatever. The only thing is when it gets called an underdog story, because quite a lot of the people over the pond in America think it is. Like they're bought into that underdog story. Like, come on, the gap is huge.
I feel like Googling what's the opposite to underdog. Was it like overcat or something?
I don't know. Maybe
they're an overcat.
Copyright.
They're not an underdog.
I mean, it's mad. It's mad. Like we've got some decent spending power in this division. Really have.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's the thing. Like we probably have second, third, fourth, maybe budget in the league, right?
I say second.
I don't think it is second.
I think it is.
I think it might be third or fourth. I'm sure there's a team that are above us. Possibly.
Which other one would it be if we were fourth?
Don't know. I don't know.
Maidstone?
Potentially.
Possibly.
Yeah. So we have got a big spending power, but I'd like to see what the gap is. Like we've got a big budget, but I'd like to see the gap between second and first.
Nah, I bet it's absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
We could have all the money we want and we wouldn't get Ben Foster. We could have all the money we want and we wouldn't get Elliot Lee.
Yeah, you're right.
Championship and Prem players. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. They've got the pull of. They've got the big social media buzz. You hear more about Wrexham now than you do about Bournemouth, Southampton, Palace. Hear more about them than ever, than any of those teams. More about all the teams in League Two, all the teams in League One, pretty much. So
Ian's made a good point, to be fair. We've seen before when you sign a team of individuals, I'd rather have a squad of team players. We've sort of said that before in the book. I remember relatively near to the start of the Reitz brothers taking over. I remember like they felt like a bit of a shift where people weren't signing for Notts for the money. It was more about the project and playing for Notts County and things like that. Whereas before, there's a long list of players that were sort of spent that we probably gave quite big wages to in League Two. That's probably led us to where we are now.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the backing that Wrexham have is massive. And I can't remember what his company was, but Ryan Reynolds has allegedly sold one of his companies for $1.3 billion, I believe.
Yeah, the money's just going to keep coming in.
Yeah, now let's just say that though, that's not directly going into Wrexham, is it?
Obvious, yeah.
Wrexham's just like a sort of a side business for him, isn't it? It's not going to be where all his money's going, but the investing power that they will have is huge, really. And you sort of think, with the direction that Notts have and the sort of football in mind, we interviewed the owners, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, and the way they talk about football, they know football to its intricacies, whereas Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKennie don't, nowhere near. So I think I know this is a bit of a fantasy, but imagine having that knowledge and that money, what you could achieve. It could be huge.
Obviously, they're bought in people that know things, but yeah, I
Ted
agree.
Lasso.
I agree. The final thing I will say is, if you could ever even try and compare the difference, their keeper got injured and they've signed a Premier League goalkeeper 9 months ago with hundreds of appearances, played national team, I believe. Our goalkeeper got injured and we recalled our keeper from the National League North. I believe we recalled him. I don't think his loan had finished, or maybe just finished, played National League North. So there you go. I mean, the point we're trying to make is how well we're doing. We're doing so well, and because we're not top at the minute, it shouldn't detract from that. Like, we're on 91 points or something like that in March. We could be on 94 still in March. I think we could be on if we win both of them, almost 100 points in March. That's insane. So there's nothing else I can really put to that. We have just done as well as we possibly can. There's no like nothing else about it from my point of view. Nothing else I can say. I'm not surprised by who they sign anymore. There we go. That's it.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Because you have frustrations, and like you sort of say, disappointing result against Barnet. I was saying it in the little snippets that we put together for It's All Black and White. Anything less than a win isn't good enough, and we leave that game feeling like that when we get the draw. Barnet are 5th.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, away in the playoffs, decent. It's dropped a little bit, but they're a good team. They're a very good team. So to get a draw away from there in a normal season, it's pretty good, really. So it just shows you how much is really on this title. We've lost two games in the league this season. It's been an outstanding season. Outstanding.
Yeah, it has.
And we're still slightly short.
Yeah. But as we've said multiple times, it's not over. No way is it over. Anything can happen. There you go. As a Wrexham fan, the title is still not over. Exactly. Callum, just got back from the Carvery, lads. Can't be missing this. Callum, I think you've joined us in the cinema before for a film.
What meat did you have, Callum?
And was there cauliflower cheese?
What a question that is. Fantastic.
Plenty of gravy as well. Plenty of gravy. Right, let's look ahead then. Scunthorpe, around 15,000 so far, I think. And you know what's going to be different about this one? The away following is huge. The away following is huge, which I think will increase that atmosphere even more.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be a great day, isn't it? Potentially we could break the record again, but who knows?
Yeah,
Because I remember against Yeovil, we actually opened the Ciro, didn't we, for some home fans to extend
yeah,
ticket sales, but it wasn't actually that full, if you remember rightly. So it'll be interesting because if my memory serves me right, I think 2,000 near enough fills the Cyril, doesn't it? By that end block, so it's not near the Cop.
yeah.
So if they sold 1,700, that's a good number. That is. Um, so yeah, we'll see on the day. I know 1,000 tickets got given foundation, which they've handed out in the community. So that's sort of a bumper of 1,000 people, and then you've got your it's good going, isn't it? Good
I
going.
think also that's going to kind of balance out because Yeovil didn't bring anywhere near as many as Scunthorpe were bringing, so that'll balance out with the amount of people that were in the Cyril last time.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good, and I think we could possibly break that record. You know, good atmosphere behind them. We didn't freeze against Yeovil, I don't think. I mean, we should have scored. Maka should have scored within the first couple of minutes. Yeovil just had that new manager bounce, extremely disciplined. It wouldn't go in for us that day, just like it wouldn't against Dagenham after we got that first one. So I don't think it really phases the players. I mean, that was much earlier in the season, so we'll see. But I think it'll be a really good occasion, and obviously with the price of tickets, the price they are, you know, everywhere these days, at every level. I mean, who was it last year that was outrageous prices for National League? I can't remember who it was. We're doing like 20. It was Kings Lynn, wasn't it? Outrageous prices for National League. It was like 25 quid or something like that. Something mad. On a away ticket. So yeah, it's good. It's obviously really good, and it's going to try hopefully get people to come back again. So yeah, positives. I am slightly concerned about Scunthorpe though. They're fighting for their lives, and they've revamped the side. It's. I don't even think you can look back at the game where we won 4-1. Not at all.
No. Yeah, that's another thing Williams was saying in his presser. It's essentially like playing a different team because they're like you said, they've had a full revamp. So yeah, it's essentially it's like we've not played them before. So it's going to be a different game, completely different.
They've lost Caroline Lavery, haven't they? He's gone. But you look, and the last 3 games they've lost to Solihull, but they've also they've beaten Altrincham 2-0, and we know Altrincham are a good side, and they've beaten Wealdstone, who are just outside the playoffs 4-1. I do think Wealdstone have run out of steam though. They also got absolutely hammered, didn't they, by Chesterfield the other day? Was it 4-0 in that one? So you know they've shipped 8 goals in 2 games, but Scunthorpe, with that many fans behind them, and that they're a big side for this division as well, not wanting to go down into the National League North, they have to win. Do you think that plays into our hands? Because they have to win. Even a draw here, because they've played more games, they played 3 more than Gateshead and 1 more than Dorking. Even a draw here would still, at absolute best, leave them 3 points off. They have to go for it.
Yeah, they do. It's one of those really difficult games for Scunthorpe because if they come out and play us and go for the win, they play into our hands massively. But also if they're a bit more reserved, there's less chance of them scoring. I'd say they're being doing a lot of homework on the way Dagenham played against us because that was very sort of reserved, and then they were counter-attacking fairly quickly, and then they're one of the very few teams to sort of beat us this season, one of 2 in the league. So yeah, I can't really see them going all guns blazing at us, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's not the way to do things against Notts. I don't think if you really want to beat them, you have to be very, very disciplined and quick and patient. Really, can you imagine what it must be like to play against a side that you're looking at 70% possession? You can't get the ball off them because they're just passing it around. They break the lines so well. Some great individuals in the final third. Maka can score from nothing. Must be so frustrating to play against. So
it must be.
You can see why the teams that come and they're a bit more reserved do get carved open a bit more.
I know. I'm just looking at their running, and it's one of the easier run-ins in the whole division. Scunthorpe. So actually now looking at the running, I think they can afford to come and get a draw. I mean, they still have to play York, but they still have to play Torquay, Gateshead and Dorking. And they're chasing Dorking and they go to Dorking on the last day. So actually, I think they can afford to get a draw here. They still play Aldershot. They still play Oldham at home. Winnable games. So yeah, maybe they can play for the draw, but I also think you're not going to want to get hammered, are you, for the goal difference side as well? The goal difference is only a little bit better than Dorking's, I think, and it's nowhere near as Gateshead. Gateshead's, well, Scunthorpe's is -25. Gateshead's is only -11, so it could all come into play. As I said, Gateshead have played 3 less, so it's looking pretty bleak for Scunthorpe. But the players they've signed are they're not a bottom 4 side anymore. Let's put it that way. And then we play Altrincham, who are mid-table, won't go down, won't make the playoffs. Comfortably say that they'll finish around mid-table. Tuesday night, I'm not sure whether it will be on. Personally, did you see? So we've had Tom Williams on Twitter, who's been on the channel a lot. He put the England C pictures up from the England C game.
Yes,
it looked waterlogged first half, and I've had a look. It's just rained every day in Altrincham since, and it is the only day without rain is Monday. So I'd be very surprised if it was on. I mean, I've seen Altrincham fans saying it's held up really well all season, but they didn't really want that extra England C game on. So yeah, I don't know. I hope it's on it, because then it's going to get pushed back further, isn't it? And then we're sort of in dangerous territory. Talking of that England C game, Maka was withdrawn. Obviously, you didn't see on, I don't know if it was said on the radio on Saturday, he stretched for a cross, and as he landed with his foot twisted, and he was hobbling for a good 3 or 4 minutes. So I genuinely think it wasn't pre-planned. I think
no.
I think he actually was. Yeah, I think it was a precaution, genuinely.
Yeah, I think at the time he got called up, it was pretty honest about being happy about it, both manager and player at Notts. So I think it sort of come at a bad time, like you say, picked up a bit of a knock, and like we've already sort of discussed, at the top end of the pitch we're very, very thin. So I think that's obviously played into why that's happened.
Yeah. I guess Ian said, got my ulti tickets, so I hope it's called off before I set off. Yeah, I'm hoping it's that way. I don't want to get halfway there and then it's called off. Yeah, Jordan, who left the Barnet game with me, said he was hobbling a bit, getting on the coach after as well. We did see him, didn't we, Jordan? Like, not a bad limp, but there was a little bit of a limp there. So there we go. Matt says, hoping someone has spare Wrexham ticket to sell. Yeah, I think as we get closer, I definitely think there will be a few. There definitely is. You're never going to get bang on 1,000 and whatever they give us people that will be able to make it. There'll be something that happens close, but you're going to have to be prepared to go and get that ticket off them the morning of the game, I think, if possible. Chris, I'd have preferred the Ulti game to be arranged when Wrexham play Yeovil. We go and drop points Tuesday. It could make the racecourse game meaningless. I'd flip that on its head, Chris, and say I prefer us to play Altrincham before they play Yeovil, because again, it's an opportunity to get our points on the board. Also puts more pressure on their game. Also, I believe this has a little bit of, not a clash, but we look at their fixtures. The Saturday after us, they play Halifax in the trophy semi-final. They might rest people. They might rest players. They've nothing to lose. They're not going to go up and they're not going to go down. They might just rest people for the Halifax game on the Saturday. I genuinely think that could happen. Do you, George? There's nothing.
Potentially.
There's no benefit to them. Well, they can't go up or down unless they won every game, which would still be tricky for them to even get playoffs. So I'm hoping that happens. And if you're there, or live in Altrincham, just pop down to the ground and just say, boys on Notts County Talk have said, why don't you rest a few players? Well, we're rooting for you in the trophy, aren't we, George? We're rooting for you.
Oh yeah, big time,
yeah. Let's have a look. Dale says thanks for training Pavis. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Let's have a look. Have we missed something? What is the name? What does Pavis mean? So Pavis is the stand we sit in. So it's our perspective from the stand, and have a look up Derek Pavis and the importance of Derek Pavis for Notts as well. So that's where we can't move stand because we are the Pavis perspective. We can't change to the cop perspective. Or although one game this season you were family stand perspective, weren't you? You were.
I think it might have even been 2.
Maybe 2.
Potentially.
Maybe 2. Let's have a look then. Have we got any questions? Any questions for us before we have a look at the lineups? Or if you do have any while we're doing the lineups, just let us know. So, Scunthorpe, we've not really got many players to pick from. What do you think? I'm going to go first. I'm sure you're in the cup for a game last season. Ian, don't, you're letting people know. No, we did go in for the Grimsby game. We went in for that. But it's not going to be, it would never be a permanent move. I prefer the view from the Pavis massively, if I'm honest. Better atmosphere in the Cop, better view in the Pavis. Gets that better perspective. So, hopefully, Sam Slocum in goal. What do you reckon percentage-wise that we can see Sam Slocum?
90%.
90%. 91%. Rawlo, Badge, Cameron. Can't be anything else, can it?
Yeah.
Chickson, Aaron the Man, Matty Palmer. Who do you pair Palmer with? Bostock or Jim? Or Vinny?
Bostock. Won't put Vinny there.
Okay, Bostock, I'd agree. And then this is probably the only bit that could be a bit of a mix-up. What do you think? We don't have Jody Jones.
Lemon Evans. Ruben. Okay.
So who does that even leave for the bench? When you think about it like that, who does that actually leave for the bench? Jim O'Brien, Frankie Vincent. Who else has we got on the bench? Mayor. There's nobody else. There's no attacking outlets. So the starting 11 have to get it done. Would you bring one? I saw someone say, "Why didn't Mahovo get on when we only had 4 subs?" Would you bring any youth players on there, or do you think it's just a bit of a waste of time? Oh, Sam Austin. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, can't forget Sammy Austin, Super Sammy Austin. I mean, slot him over Lemon Evans.
Potentially. I don't really see a reason to put a youth player on the bench because I don't think we're going to use them at this moment in the season. Yeah. So I don't really see a reason to.
No, I mean, this is looking, obviously, I think it's going to be a tricky game on Saturday, but looking well ahead, I think it would be good if we could get a couple of goals and then, say, bring Vinny on for Chicks, get Aaron the Man a bit of a rest. So, yeah, that'd be good. And then Altrincham, we'll just see where it goes. Did it sound like Brindley was close, George, to
he's
coming back?
He's on the grass and training. So
really good. Really good.
But he's on the brink of coming back, I think.
It hurt me to see the picture of Toby after surgery.
Yes.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, that would have been really good. I think at the point he got injured, he had the most touches in the opposition box. Didn't he have any player per 90 or something? Jordan, you forget Austin every week, lads, about as bad as me calling him Baldwin. It's nowhere near as bad. Nowhere near. I've just apologised to you for comments I made earlier in the chat, Jordan. Thank you. Poor from you. Let's go for the poll then, George.
Interesting.
Let's go for that.
Interesting. It is. As always. Are you interested in watching the England matches? 22% say yes, 48% say no, 30% say sometimes. Tom, where do you fall?
Sometimes.
I put no.
I know you weren't even bothered about the World Cup, were you?
I was, but I wasn't. At the same time, I just couldn't get into it. I like tournament football, but games like tonight genuinely does not interest me in the slightest.
I mean, it is a qualifier, isn't it?
It just doesn't. Nothing appeals to me.
So
Not at one point today have I thought, oh, I'm going to watch England tonight, or is it even crossed my mind? It just does not appeal to me at all.
Fair enough. Would you be gutted if England didn't make it into the Euros?
Yeah, I would. I
Go.
expect it.
No, but yeah, I'm sometimes. I think what did it for me was the Hungary game a few months ago. We just got battered by Hungary with like 4 goals past us or something. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Before we go on to scores, James said, "Dad, you forgot about Junior. Do you not think he makes the bench?" I think it's a longer term injury than we thought, James. So I don't think he'll be fit for that bench. Unfortunately. Right, score prediction, George. Go for Scunthorpe first.
3-1 Notts. Maka, Ruben, Cameron.
Yeah, 3-1 Notts. Maka, Ruben, Matty Palmer. And I agree with Grimbo, club over country every time. Altrincham, harder than Scunthorpe or not? I think this Scunthorpe game's harder just because of the context of the Altrincham game.
I'm thinking about the pitch.
True, but they like to play football as well.
Yeah.
They do like to play football.
I reckon it's probably be a closer game.
Score 1-0.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to say 1-0 Ruben penalty.
I'm going Maka 1-0 very late on. Ball's going to get stuck in the mud from a Ruben shot on the line. Goalkeeper's going to run back to get it, slip over. Maka will tap it in. You've heard it here first. Okay.
Yeah.
And if that does happen, my word. Let's have a look what you're thinking there. We've got a 2-1 and a 1-0. We've got Matt saying 3-0 not Saturday, 2-1 Tuesday. What else have we got here? We've got 3-1 against Scunny, Maka, Ruben and Austin, and 2-1 against Alti, Maka, Brace. Do you think he's going to break the record, George?
Has to.
I think so.
You can't get yourself into this position and not.
And not.
Do you know what, as well?
5-2 and 2-1.
Get him on penalties. I mean, to be honest, there's no point getting him on penalties because we probably won't get any more anyway the rest of the season.
Yeah, we don't seem to get those, do we? 4-1 Chicks and hat-trick, Langstaff. 3-0 Chicks and hat-trick. Let's get a couple more. Charlie, 3-0 Notts, Ruben, 2 and Job. 1 versus Scunthorpe. That'd be good. Let's get a couple more in. We've got 2-1 and 3-2, both Notts wins. Some real confidence there. I mean, Saturday and Tuesday are obviously big games. They all are now. So if you are going and you're one of those 15,000+, then enjoy the game. Should be a really good atmosphere. Scunthorpe bringing a lot. They've got loads to play for, so it's not going to be a team that's just going to, just sit there and not do anything. I think they kind of have to go for it. Altrincham as well, if you are travelling. I am, and hopefully the game is on because I think it would be good to get it ahead of Wrexham's game against Yeovil. As always, thank you for joining us on this Thursday night. Some great questions and some great chat going on in the live chat. As always, please don't forget to like the video, comment anything else you think of, and subscribe to the channel.